So this one is the stripe wrap cross contour. And so what this is, this drawing is of this setup here. And what it is, it's just a few items I put down and then a black and white striped sheet over it. And so what we're doing is cross contour. And so I want to be able to show the volume and the folds of this fabric, kind of show what's going on the surface using just line. So there's, even though if we look at the photo reference, we see the form described by like maybe a highlight here or a shadow there, we're going to ignore all the values and we're just going to draw the black lines and leave the white of the paper for the white lines. So we won't have these values to show the bumps and the curves of this. We're only going to use the shape of the stripe. So if I go back to the drawing, you can tell here, you know, that there's a fold that kind of comes through here. So you can kind of see it right there. And that's because these bumps and curves are all consistent. So if you come down, this one goes like this one, you know, this one follows that too. And then so you start to get a sense across a few stripes that we have a fold that runs along here. And also when we come to the edges, what I did is kind of put a little tail on these lines. So instead of ending maybe right here, I kind of extend it out this way a little bit. And then that down here, that over there. And what that does, that gives you a sense of like coming from the front, curving around the top, and then kind of going behind the fold or behind the surface. So the more variation you have in the line, so this could have easily just been one swooping line that kind of just continues down, but instead it has a bunch of little bumps in it, a bunch of little variation, like kind of slants and then a bump and dips down, right? What all that does is that gives you more feeling of what's going on the surface. So so cross contour, so what this is, this kind of shows what's going on the surface. So if we think of like this being like longitude lines and latitude lines, right? On a map, they're just boxes, like straight up and down, straight left to right. On a globe, these lines get some curvature to them. So again, if I redraw this, right, on a map, it's just like a grid. On something that's three-dimensional and something that's round, like a globe, these lines are gonna have some curvature to them. So our latitudes are gonna go like that. Our longitudes are all gonna kind of curve outwards. Right, and so I get kind of like a wireframe structure of a three-dimensional object. And so if I'm shading this, or I'm filling this in, if I do all my lines going vertical, right, because it's on a flat, like that'll work. But on this, if I go vertical, but I go with the form, right, I start to get a sense of what's going on the surface. So these lines over here are going to kind of curve this way. And so this is helpful. So when you're shading with a pencil, you could shade in your object by doing, you know, going with the surface, you know, rather than just going one direction. And that kind of gives you a sense of what kind of object you're shading, if it's round or if it's flat. You can also do this if you're painting with a paintbrush, like if you're doing acrylic or oil. But the mediums we're using for this one is sketch everything out first with your pencil. So this is the light one, so it's like the 2H. You can use your eraser to kind of erase things when you're done. And then use your 0.5 pen and your brush tip pen. So the way these stripes are done is first I'll sketch in like maybe a line. I'll sketch in one of the stripes. Let's do a couple. So I'll sketch those in with pencil first, and then I'll use the pen and I'll just outline the form. And so when I draw these lines, I'm only worried about the outside edge. I want to get that really precise and clean. Like this one kind of overlap, but the outside edge still looks fine. And so the next step I'll do is with the 0.5 pen, I'll just go over the outline again, but on the inside. So my outside shape stays really crisp, you know, really accurate to the first pencil line I did. Then once I have that done, then I'll switch to the brush pen and I'll fill in with the brush. And so the goal of this is to get it, all the blacks solid black, and then leave the white paper solid white. So there's no variation in value. It's just either solid black, solid white. And if you do your stripes and the shape of them right, you let the ends of your stripes kind of curve to the front of the back. If you do all that right, then you should get a feeling that you have a three-dimensional object. And then if there's any, so say if you have some edges, let me just sketch in here with the pencil. Say this is the edge of the fold and that's another one there. You should be able to show enough just with the black line, the black stripe, to describe the form. So let me shade this in real quick. Fill that in. So even though this is just an edge, but I still have these pencil lines I drew. Later come back with your eraser and erase the edge of those white. So you have the edge being filled in with your mind of just the black edges. So if you look throughout this, there isn't a black edge that kind of goes around. It's all just the stripes that kind of what happens on the edge of them that kind of hook over or hook around to kind of show you the whole form.